Good morning, wherever you are. If it's morning, time doesn't work the way it used to, but I still say it. Because saying morning means we made it through the night. This is Alex Reed again. Same voice, different frequency, different world. It's been 3 years since the collapse, since the banks fell, since the lights went dark, since the towers went quiet. 3 years since the last map anyone trusted stopped meaning anything. 3 years since we all had to learn to live at human speed again. But we're still here. You're still here. And that means we start again. The signal you're hearing now, it's not a relic. It's not a memorial. It's new. Rebuilt from copper wire and broken trust. Reassembled by hands that had every reason to stop, but didn't. This station? It's not the old one. That one burned in the second winter. This one's stitched together from pieces of the people who stayed. We built it beneath a grain elevator, wired it with parts from emergency radios and wind turbines, powered it with a stubborn little solar grid that we reset every morning by hand. We call it the Morning Post. And it's more than a broadcast. It's a promise, a reminder that we speak because we're still alive, and we listen because someone else is too. I've got messages to read, updates to share, names to remember. But first, just sit with me. Wherever you are, in whatever shape, behind whatever walls you had to build, just to feel safe. Just be here, this moment, this breath dash, this fire we're keeping lit between us. That's the start of everything. The world didn't end. It just got quiet enough to hear each other again. I want to tell you about the man who walked into our camp 6 days ago. His name was Jacob. Gray hoodie, black gloves, no shoes. He looked like a ghost someone forgot to finish. Just a shadow of a man, quiet and raw. Didn't say much at first, just sat by the fire. Wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep. Just stared at the light like it owed him something. When I finally asked where he came from, he said, "I kept walking until the noise stopped." He meant the cities. He meant the screaming. He meant whatever was left of the old world that still echoed in the glass and steel and bones. He walked through all of it. And when he got to us, he stopped. Not because he found peace, but because we were speaking, and in a world that went quiet. That was enough. Jacob brought something with him. A bag full of letters, hundreds of them, most unopened, some unreadable, all kept. He said he'd been picking them up from abandoned mailboxes, outpost walls, old survivor notice boards. Didn't know why. Just said, no one deserves to be forgotten before they're heard. He gave me the bag, told me to read them on air, 1 a day, maybe 2. He's gone now. Left a piece of cloth with the words, "North is warmer than rumor says. Keep speaking." We will, Jacob. Thanks for carrying what no one else would. Here's one of the letters. No name. Just this. To whoever finds this. I was afraid. I left my brother behind because I was afraid. If you see a man near the old train station in Baltimore with a scar on his chin and a purple backpack, that's him. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I'm looking. I don't know if the brother's still there. I don't know if this apology will reach the right ears, but it's out there now. It's moving again. That's what matters. The world we have now isn't made of cities. It's made of kept things. Letters, promises, stories told by firelight, signs left on trees, a blanket handed to a stranger with no name. That's what survived. That's what we are. Not the steel, not the flags, not the systems. Just the things we chose to keep. Tomorrow I'll tell you about the convoy from the Rockies. Tonight I'll light the east signal fire early. The wind's picking up. But before I sign off this hour, if you're out there, if you've kept something, anything, a name, a photo, a piece of cloth with a date on it, hold on to it. And when you can, pass it forward. Because that's how the world rebuilds now. One kept thing at a time. This came in on a scratched disc tucked inside a first aid tin. No note, no name, just a voice, a low, tired voice. You can hear the wind howling through a broken window behind her, a truck engine sputtering, someone coughing, but her voice, steady. She says, "We left the Rockies with 4 trucks, lost 2 before we hit the plains, got caught in a storm, then lost another to a collapsed bridge. We don't know how many miles we've put behind us. We just call them songs now." That was a 3-song trip. This stretch feels like 6. It helps. There are 9 of us left. We call ourselves the convoy. Not because we're strong, but because we're still moving. And we sing at night. Not for comfort, not even for hope. Just to make sound so the dark doesn't forget we're here. That disc looped at the end. Just her voice humming something soft. Maybe a lullaby. Maybe the last thing she remembered from the old world. I let it play for an hour. No one in camp spoke. We just listened, like we were holding a hand across time. We think the convoy's still out there. Someone saw tire tracks heading southeast 3 nights ago. Fresh ones. The kind made by a truck that hasn't quit yet. Someone even swears they heard singing downwind of the grain silos. If you're the convoy, and if you hear this, keep driving, keep singing, you're being heard. And if you're not the convoy, but you're moving, you're part of them now. Because out here, motion is communion. One of the children in our camp, her name's Mira, painted a picture this morning. Charcoal and oil, rough paper, a truck on a narrow road surrounded by fields of tall grass. In the sky, not clouds, but voices, swirling, rising, like steam. She said, "That's what it looks like when people don't stop." I asked her how she knew. She said, "Because we're still warm." And I didn't have the heart to say anything else, because she was right. If you're listening in from anywhere flat, anywhere dry, anywhere open, look for tire tracks, follow the singing, and when you hear them, don't just join. Echo. Because songs aren't always for comfort. Sometimes they're navigation. Sometimes they're the only way home. There's a story that circles this region, old by now, passed hand to hand like dry bread and better dreams. They say there's a man who walks the middle of nowhere with a line of lanterns strung behind him. 15 of them, maybe more, tied to an old climbing rope that drags behind like a tail. None of them are electric, just flame, glass, wick, fuel. He lights them all before dusk, then walks until dawn. No shelter, no camp, just motion and fire. And wherever he passes, those who see him say they sleep better, even if he never stops. Even if he never says a word. They say his silence is louder than most people's screams. Someone left a note tied to the post outside our gate last week. Just paper, folded under a smooth stone. No name, just this. We saw him east of the old 75, the Lantern Man. He didn't look at us, just kept walking. But after he passed, my daughter stopped crying. For the first time in weeks. I don't know why. I just know it mattered. They drew a small flame beneath the message. Not a candle, not a campfire, just a mark, a memory, left burning. I don't know if he's real. I don't need to. Because sometimes what we believe in becomes the thing that keeps our feet moving. And maybe we need the Lantern Man more than we need certainty. Back when the world was still pretending everything was fine, we used to talk about legacy like it was a monument, a company, a title. But now, legacy is a flame that moves, a warmth that travels, a light that someone else sees from far away and says, I think I'll keep going. If you're walking tonight and you see flickers in the distance, don't run, don't hide, just walk a little slower. And if you pass him, nod. You don't need to say anything, he's already said enough. I didn't believe it when I first heard about it. A library, still standing, still open. Not in a city. Those are mostly gone, gutted, rotting from the inside out. Not underground. There's no power grid left to speak of. Just out there, on a hill, near a broken highway, in a place where the wind never quite stops. They call it the Listening Library. Not because it holds books, though it does, but because it holds recordings. Hundreds of them, maybe more. Each one left by a traveler who stopped, sat, and spoke. There are no guards, no locks, no trading post. Just a single rule etched into the wall near the front door. Leave a story. Take only time. A woman named Danny came through our camp last month. She'd been there. Walked 4 days with blisters and no clean water just to find it. She said the first thing she heard was a child's voice, tinny, through an old cassette, talking about a dog he used to have, how it always knew when he was scared. Then silence, then a second recording, a woman singing, off-key, cracked, beautiful. She said she sat there for 2 days, listening to strangers breathe through broken radios. She left her own message behind too. Didn't say what it was, only said, now I'm part of the quiet. That's what the new world feels like sometimes. Not war, not chaos, just a long, deep quiet that we each fill in our own way. Some people build, some carry, some burn, some walk, some singing, and some leave their voice behind in a room full of other voices, so someone else knows they were real. If you're near the base of the old 61, near the stone mile markers and the concrete barrier that's split in half like a tooth cracked down the middle, there's a path. It curves northwest. It climbs. At the top, there's a library. It doesn't demand anything from you, but it will listen. And in a world like this, that might be more than most of us ever got. Her name was Neela. She arrived with nothing but a canvas satchel and a roll of paper tied with shoelace. She didn't speak for the first 2 days. Just sat near the stove, her eyes tracing every wall, every window, every exit. When she finally opened her bag, we understood. She was a cartographer, a memory keeper. Not the kind who draws borders, the kind who draws routes through grief. Every map she unrolled was alive, not GPS, not contour lines, stories. One showed a trail of hand-drawn lanterns between broken towns. Another, a faded route where someone named Eli left stones marked with red X's, safe for one night. Another, a riverbank marked only with the word, sang here, loud. Neela didn't just map where to go. She mapped where people had felt something. We gave her a wall, let her pin up as many maps as she liked. Over time, people added to them. Not with precision, not with measurements, just memories. Passed through here with a friend. Warm water under the rocks. Don't go here. The silence feels wrong. She kissed me at this junction. I still dream of it. Every mark, a heartbeat. Every scribble, a life not lost to the static. Neela left 2 weeks later. Didn't say goodbye, just pinned a final sheet to the wall. A single word written across a black line. Still walking. And under it, a dot. No label, just a place and the date. If you find a map tied with string in a lost bag, or folded in the pocket of a jacket swinging from a wire fence, stop. Unfold it. Trace the lines with your finger, and leave a mark of your own. Because the world's not made of coordinates anymore. It's made of testimony, and every path you take might become the one someone else needs to survive. It hadn't rained in weeks. The kind of dry that cracks the skin on your lips, that makes wind feel like sandpaper. The kind where people stop hoping and just start enduring. Then, one morning, before dawn, no warning, the sky just opened. Cold, hard, relentless. Buckets from nowhere. No thunder, no wind, just straight rain, falling like it had been waiting to land. We ran out, mouths open, faces turned up like sunflowers, starving for something soft. Some cried. Some just stood still and let it soak through to their bones. But the strangest part? The sound. Not the rain itself. Something else. Music. Faint. Carried by the wind. Low notes at first, then melody. Not from a radio. Not from a speaker. From somewhere. We followed it. 12 of us, all in coats and soaked boots, walking into the downpour with no plan but a direction. The music grew clearer. A piano, something soft, played with care. And beneath it, voices, singing old, off-key, but steady, not for performance, for memory. We found them in an abandoned amphitheater. 30 or 40 people, soaked and smiling, gathered around a tarp-covered upright piano missing 3 keys. A man in a red coat was playing. Didn't even turn when we approached, just nodded and kept playing. The song was one I barely remembered. A lullaby. Something from a time before collapse, before crisis, before the dollar died and the lights went out. They were singing not to survive, but to remember being alive. We stayed there all day. No one spoke. Just sang. When the rain stopped, the piano was moved back under cover. The players packed up. The crowd dispersed without a word. One of them handed me a small wooden coin. Etched into it, "The choir moves." They weren't performers. They were witnesses. They carry songs through dead towns and broken fields, and they leave them, like breadcrumbs for the spirit. So the next time it rains, and you think you hear music, follow it. And if you can't, sing anyway. because sound carries farther in the rain, and someone might need your voice just to keep walking. There's a hum you get used to when you live underground, a kind of electric silence, like the walls are still remembering the machines that used to run there. That's how it felt when we stumbled into the basement of an old courthouse outside what used to be Des Moines. Dust thick enough to write your name in. Broken tiles, mold on the north wall, and in the back, behind a rusted door and a stack of waterlogged file boxes, a broadcast room, intact. Mic still mounted, console still bolted, the red light still faintly flickering. No power, but someone had hooked it to a crank generator. A sign above the desk, carved into the paneling with a pocket knife. Leave something behind. We spun the crank, sat down, pressed record, and we listened. Because there were tapes, not labeled, not cataloged, just stacked neatly in boxes one after the other. Messages, hundreds of them. People passing through, leaving their voices in the dark. A woman describing the way her daughter's hair smelled before the collapse. A man reading from a list of names he said belonged to his neighbors, all of them gone. A child singing a made-up song about soup and bravery. 1,000 tiny proofs that we were here, that we felt things, that survival wasn't just about breathing. It was about being remembered. We left our own, of course, the four of us, each speaking like we were whispering into a long hallway. I said, if you're down here, if you're scared, if the sky hasn't been blue in weeks, this is Alex Reed. You're not alone. This is still a shared world. Leave something behind. We'll find each other in the static. Then I stopped recording, and I cried, not from sadness, but from continuity. Because this isn't just noise. It's a chain. Every voice, a link. Every whisper, a signal that someone else dared to care. The tapes are still there. The room still works. If you find it, say something. Anything. Because years from now, someone will spin the crank, sit in that chair, and they'll want to know that someone else was brave enough to speak. Be that someone. Be that link. Leave something behind. We picked up her signal by accident. A burst of static on band 14.7, a channel we hadn't scanned in months. Barely audible at first, just a faint beep, then a slow tap, then silence, then again, beep, tap, silence. It repeated for exactly 7 minutes before the voice came through. Software measured, young. If anyone can hear me, this is Ren. I'm safe. I'm above the fields. I see everything. It took us 4 days to triangulate the signal. West of Omaha, up past what used to be Council Bluffs, out where the flatland looks like ocean, a rusted-out grain silo surrounded by tall grass and the bones of broken fences. She was up there, 50 feet off the ground, on a metal platform swaying in the wind, her little radio transmitter strung between 2 poles like spiderweb. When we climbed up, she didn't speak, just nodded, handed us a mug of lukewarm chicory, turned her head back toward the horizon. She pointed. Convoy passed through there yesterday. 7 carts, 1 limping horse. They had kids. Then she pointed again. Something moved near the irrigation ruins. Not animals. 2 legs. Ren had been there for almost a year. She kept a log, not on paper, in her head. Every caravan, every firelight, every movement through the wheatgrass. She didn't stop them, didn't help or harm. She just watched. She said, "If I see you, then someone knows you were real." That was it. No judgment, no orders, no "stay off my land." Just witnessing, the most powerful form of protection we have left. She asked us not to stay, said she liked knowing we were out there, but she needed her height, her silence, her job. So we left her 3 new batteries, some dry beans, and a windbreaker. She gave us coordinates to share on the air. If you pass between mile marker 118 and the broken cattle bridge, look east. If you see a flash of light, wave. I'll log it. We asked why she does it, why she chooses to sit up there alone, day after day. She said, because someone has to remember the shape of the world as it rebuilds. And I believe her. I hope someday you see her light. And I hope you wave back, because some people don't carry supplies. Some carry memory, and that's just as vital. We found it by accident. Walking the ruins of an old elementary school, hunting for copper wire and medical tape, thought the place had been stripped years ago. Nothing but desks, broken windows, collapsed gym roof. Then we heard the sound. Software hollow, carried on a thread of wind. Bells. Dozens of them, maybe more. Not loud, not like alarms. Just a gentle chime, like the world was exhaling through glass. We followed it to what used to be the school's garden. Raised beds overtaken by vines, broken bricks scattered in a half moon, a swing set swallowed by grass, and hanging from the trees, strung on string and yarn and wire, were bells. All kinds. Old dinner bells, bike bells, chimes made from keys and silverware and hollow shell casings, each one different, each one swaying. We stood there, not speaking, because it felt like a place where silence mattered, where sound meant something. There was a plaque nailed to the trunk of the largest tree. Each bell is for someone who passed quietly, who wasn't found, who wasn't named. Ring one if you remember someone. Leave one if you can't forget them. Someone had cared enough to build this, to honor the unmarked, the unburied, the gone without goodbye. Not with a monument, with music. We rang 3. One for a man I met on the 4th night of the collapse, who gave me a flashlight and disappeared before dawn. One for my mother, whose last words I still whisper when the wind picks up. And one for the girl I never knew, who left a can of beans on our doorstep in the dead of winter without a note. I think about her sometimes. How kindness can survive even when everything else breaks. How maybe that's what keeps the world spinning now. Not force, not fire, but remembrance. If you're walking through quiet country and you hear bells where there should be none, stop, listen, and if you can, leave one behind. Because the best way to carry the past is not to drag it, but to ring it into the wind. Let it echo. Let it be heard. There's a place where the land folds into itself like an apology. Used to be a river there. The map said so. But now, just cracked clay and rusted rebar. The water left years ago, taking fish, silence, and half the town's reason to stay. But the bridge is still there. Steel, bent, burned in places. It doesn't go over anything now, just stretches from one emptiness to another. We found it on our way south, looking for shelter after the wind tore through our camp. And at the center of that bridge, a bench, just a simple bench, and behind it, a sign painted on splintered wood. Sit, speak, pass it on. There were names scratched into the steel beams, thousands. Some full, some initials, some symbols we didn't understand, all of them facing outward, facing the place where the river used to be. We sat, didn't talk at first. Then Mira, the youngest in our crew, pulled out her harmonica, played one slow, trembling song. Didn't say where she learned it, didn't say what it meant. But when she was done, she turned to me and said, "Now the river remembers us." And I swear, for 1 second, it sounded like water in the wind. This is how we rebuild meaning. With benches where no one waits for buses. With signs no one's paid to hang. With bridges that cross absence instead of rivers, because the world's still broken in places. But it's inhabited, and that's enough. We left something too. A tin can filled with stories written on scraps of cloth, each one short, each one real. We tied it to the railing with fishing line. Maybe someone else will find it. Maybe they'll read it under starlight and feel less like a ghost. If you're near what used to be the Red Fork River, look for the bridge. Sit, speak, pass it on, because not every crossing needs water. Some just need witnesses. Somewhere near what was once northern Missouri, there's a smell in the air. Smoke, thyme, slow onions, wood ash, salt. We didn't believe it at first. Food doesn't smell like that anymore. Not since the world went to rations and rootstock and burned rice scraped from blackened pans. But this was different. It smelled like care. Like someone was making something for someone else. So we followed it. Through broken farmland, past an overturned tractor, over a fence tied together with shoelaces and vines, and there, under a patched canvas tarp, beside a pot big enough to boil memory, were the cooks. 5 of them, 3 women, 2 men, all older, all grinning like they'd won a prize no one else remembered how to claim. They didn't ask who we were, didn't ask what we could trade. Just pointed to the logs and said, "Sit, stir if the pot slows, eat when it's ready." We did, and for a moment, the end of the world didn't matter, because salt and warmth and laughter still mean something. And someone, somewhere, still believes that a shared bowl can rebuild trust faster than a treaty. They call themselves the Hearth. They've been doing this since the first winter, moving from place to place, setting up their traveling kitchen wherever people gather. They don't have a home. They don't want one. Their recipe books are weather-worn and stitched together from old cookbooks, scraps, handwritten instructions, and memory. And every dish they serve comes with a story, not just where the food came from, but who ate it before, who laughed, who left. They say the pot remembers, and I believe them. Before we left, one of the women handed me a folded napkin. Inside, half a biscuit, still warm, and written on the napkin in charcoal, "Feed someone tomorrow. Don't ask who." So I'm passing that on to you now. If you have more than you need, even just slightly more, cook something. Share it. Not to barter, not to earn, just to remind someone their body still matters. That warmth can be chosen. That even in a burned world, the kitchen still speaks. And it says, You're welcome here. Have another spoonful. There's always room at the fire. It's not on any map. They call it the quiet route. Used to be part of a county road, now mostly gravel and weeds, cracked pavement where the roots got impatient. No signs, no milestones. But if you walk it long enough, something happens. It starts with the wind, then the rhythm of your own footsteps, then, faintly, other footsteps. Not behind you, not beside, under, like memory etched into the ground itself. We met a man on that road, Elias, beard like a briar patch, voice like pine sap, slow, sticky, deep. He'd been walking it for years, back and forth, never past sunset. He said, "Some places don't echo sound. They echo choices." Didn't make sense at first. Then, halfway down the route, Mira dropped a tin cup. It hit the dirt, rolled, and when it stopped, it rattled once more. Like someone else had picked it up and dropped it again. But there was no one there. Just silence, and the memory of motion. Elias told us the road only whispers back to those who mean what they say. It doesn't answer questions. It answers honesty. He showed us a trick. Said if you speak a name while standing barefoot on the old white line in the middle of the cracked pavement, you'll hear a voice. Not the person. Not exactly. Just a tone, a sound, a feeling. Like the road is remembering with you. We tried it. I said my father's name. And I swear, the wind wrapped around me just the way it did when he hugged me as a boy. I didn't cry, but I didn't speak for a while either. Some silences are sacred. Before we parted ways, Elias said, "Not every trail leads somewhere new. Some lead you back to who you were before the breaking, and that's just as important. So if you find yourself on a road that hums, one where even your breath feels borrowed, slow down, take your shoes off, and say something real. You never know what the ground remembers, and maybe it's you." There's a camp out west. No one knows exactly where. It moves, like wind, like rumor. But if you listen closely on frequency 91.8 late at night, you might hear them. Children, not crying, not begging, not calling for help, broadcasting. They don't say names. They don't give locations. They speak in riddles, games, sometimes rhymes, but every voice comes through clear. One night we heard, "If you're walking past the pines, follow the kites, not the crows. Red string means safe. Blue means listen. Yellow means don't stop." Another night. We watched stars fall into the lake. They whispered. We kept the secrets. Come quiet. It sounds like nonsense at first, until you realize they're sending maps, code wrapped in story, safety disguised as song, because the children of the static aren't lost. They're watching, they're organizing, and they're smarter than we ever gave them credit for. I met one of them once. Didn't know it until she was gone. A girl no older than 10 showed up outside our camp at dawn, hair tangled, jacket too big. She handed me a tin box filled with pine needles and broken watch parts. Said, "This one's safe for 5 nights. After that, listen to the wind." I didn't understand. But we listened. And 5 days later, the wind changed. Brought with it the sound of tires, a convoy, a threat. We had time to hide because of her. When we went looking, she was already gone. But the box, it hummed when we held it, like it still had something left to say. The static on 91.8 doesn't last long, only an hour or two a week. But if you catch it, write it down. Draw the shapes they describe. Follow the clues. Pay attention to color. Because they don't speak by accident. They speak because someone, somewhere, still deserves a way out. And if you hear laughter just under the white noise, don't be afraid. That's not madness. That's survival. And it sounds like children who remember what it meant to play and are using that memory to protect the rest of us. They meet at midday, always. No exceptions, no weapons, no raised voices, just a blanket, a kettle, a notebook passed hand to hand. We found them near what used to be St. Paul, a grove of trees untouched by fire, shielded from storms, surrounded by nothing but quiet. They call it the Daylight Accord. It isn't a council, it isn't a government. It's something older, a promise made by survivors from different walks, different beliefs, different losses, that once a week under the sun, they will gather and listen. No trading, no judgments, no ranks, just stories. Each one gets 5 minutes. No more, no less. We arrived at the edge of the grove as one was speaking. A man with torn boots, reading from a faded notebook. He spoke of a dog who stayed with him for 22 days in a collapsed parking garage. How he shared every meal, even when it meant starving. How the dog barked once, saved his life from a falling beam. Then, one morning, it was gone. No goodbye, no body, just an empty collar and a paw print in the ash. He said, "Some love doesn't need explanation. Some debts are too sacred to repay. I speak her name once a week, so the silence doesn't win." Then he sat down. No applause, just nods. The next person stood up and began their 5. We were invited to speak too. Mira read a poem. I told the story of the listening library. Others offered fragments, songs, drawings. One woman passed around a necklace of bones, each one carved with a date. Every voice mattered, because in the Daylight Accord, no voice is wasted. When the sun reaches its highest point, they end. Always. No matter who hasn't gone. Because the rule is simple. Let light guide us. Let shadow rest. Then they pack up. No handshakes, no farewells. Just a whispered sentence as they leave. See you in the brightness. If you find a gathering in a clearing, no signs, no guards, just faces turned to the sky, stop. Don't speak. Not right away. Listen. And if they invite you to share, do it. Because the world isn't rebuilt with plans. It's rebuilt with witnesses. The first time we heard it, it didn't sound like anything at all. Just a dull knock, then silence, then again, 3 times, then 5, then none. We thought it was interference. Then we realized the pattern. Morse, crude, off-tempo, almost desperate. We didn't catch the whole message at first. The static was thick, the sky low with smoke, but one phrase came through clean. We are alive. Still beneath. Beneath. We scanned again, boosted the gain, waited. Then it came again, Slower. Sublevel 4. Tunnel collapse. 12 remaining. Air stable. Please respond. It had been a week since the last quake. We hadn't thought anyone could have survived it. But there they were, somewhere underground, holding on, speaking with batteries and scraps of wire. And hope. So much hope. We traced the signal to a collapsed metro line just outside what used to be Minneapolis. Concrete sheared in two, rebar like ribs, tunnels full of standing water and time. It took 5 days, 3 injuries, 12 feet of digging, and then a voice, real, gasping, human. "You got us?" We answered, "Yes." That was all they needed. They cried. We cried. Nobody spoke for a long time after that. Sometimes words come second to the relief of not being alone. We pulled them out one at a time. Teachers, mechanics, a nurse, a child named Evan who hadn't spoken in 3 weeks, but started laughing the moment he saw a dragonfly land on Mira's shoulder. They thought the world had gone quiet, had given up, had forgotten. But we didn't. The signal was small, yes, but it reached. It always does if someone's listening. They left something behind before we sealed the tunnel. A small wooden box filled with battery-powered radios, each one labeled with names. In case others are out there, they'll know someone made it. We've been distributing them since. Call them hope transmitters. Call them testaments. Call them whatever you want. Just keep them charged. And when you hear tapping in the silence, don't doubt it. Someone's still trying to reach you. And someone will. Not every place that survived turned inward. Some reached out. Outside the ruins of what used to be Boulder, there's a wall. Built from scavenged brick, broken furniture, collapsed signage, chunks of highway concrete, even the frame of a rusted-out bus. It's 12 feet high, 100 feet long, maybe more by now. But it's not for defense. It's not meant to keep anyone out. It's meant to remember. It started with a single phrase, painted in black tar. If you are here, write what matters. And they did. In ink, in chalk, in blood sometimes. Messages, drawings, fragments of song lyrics, maps to caches, quotes from mothers, jokes only one person would understand. Over time, the wall grew. Not just in size, in memory, in weight. Every inch covered by the need to leave something behind. Not for the past, but for the next person. I stood there for an hour the first time I saw it. Didn't write anything, just read. Here are a few I remember. He made me tea every morning, even when the world ended. I still dream of the steam. We buried her under the tree that never stopped blooming. Look for the white petals. Not every scar is a warning. Some are directions. We didn't lose the world. We gave birth to a new one, screaming and red-eyed, and now we're learning to raise it. Eventually I did write something. Simple. 1 line in charcoal, smudged but legible. The signal still moves. I turned around. Mira had added her own, just below mine. And we're still listening. You don't need to be near Boulder to build one. Start with a wall, any wall, or a post, or a door, or a fence that no longer guards anything. Invite stories. Don't curate. Just collect and let it grow. Because long after we're gone, someone will see it, and they'll know we were here. We felt We remembered, and we spoke. There's a plateau east of the Rockies, dry, flat, mostly barren. Not much grows there now. The sun scorches it in summer. The frost eats it in winter. Wind howls across it all year long, carving the dirt into long, shallow ripples like waves that forgot how to move. But someone's been leaving mirrors, hundreds of them. Small ones, cracked ones, shards from cars, compact cases, broken monitors, staked into the ground with sticks and twine, tilted up toward the sky. At first it looked random, like some strange kind of art. But the longer you stand there, the clearer it becomes. They're aligned, everyone angled just slightly, catching sunlight at different times of day, and when the sun hits them all just right, around dusk, the entire plateau lights up like a field of stars. We found a message burned into the edge of a tin sign nailed to the largest post. When the world went dark, I made it shine again. No name, no instruction. Just light. Just reflection. People talk about it now like it's sacred. The sky mirror, they call it. A place to stand and remember what light feels like. Not just heat or visibility, but hope. Direction reminder. And in the middle of it all, there's a single broken chair. People leave things there. Letters, flowers, names written on cloth, bottles filled with stories. A photo of a wedding no one attended, tucked into the dirt. Nobody takes. Nobody speaks. They just leave something and go. Because the sky mirror isn't a shrine, it's a promise that no matter how far we fall, someone will still find a way to point the light back up. If you pass through the flatlands at the edge of sunset and see the flash of mirrors turning gold, stop. Stand still. Let it wash over you. Because for a brief, fragile moment, the sky remembers you, and the signal reflects everything you've carried. They started showing up about a year after the third blackout, not all at once, not in packs, just one at a time. Matted fur, makeshift collars, antennas strapped to their backs, made of scavenged metal and wire, shortwave transmitters powered by motion. They carried messages, sometimes audio, sometimes pulses, sometimes coordinates encoded in clicks and whines. People call them signal dogs. They're not owned, they're not trained, but they carry, and they return. The first one we met came into camp limping, gray-furred, one ear torn, a small radio module strapped to its ribs with an old belt. We fed it, cleaned the wound, and as it slept, the transmitter clicked to life. 3 beeps. A pause. Then a voice. This is Unit B, out of what was once Ashford. Water safe near milepost 47. South Trail compromised. Fires seen in the east. Then silence. Then again. Over and over. A signal in motion. A warning carried by muscle and instinct and the need to keep others alive. Some say the dogs are former rescue units, bomb squad strays, search and rescue retrievers that survived their handlers. Others think it started with a single person, a woman in the mountains who wired up her mutts and let them go, hoping they'd connect what no tower could anymore. Either way, they're out there. We've seen at least 4 in the last month. One dropped a wrapped note in Mira's lap. It read, "They're closing roads near the divide. Reroute. Trust the dog." We did, and 3 days later, heard rumors of a mudslide that took out the canyon road. The dog had known before the dirt did. Now we carry food for them. We leave charging pads in sun-washed fields, mark safe stations with a chalk paw print on the ground. It's the least we can do. They don't ask for anything, but they carry everything. If you see one, don't chase it. Let it come. Listen closely, because what it brings may save you, or warn you, or just remind you that connection still exists, even without wires, even without words, just loyalty, just movement, just the need to deliver hope. We met her under a broken billboard that once advertised interstate insurance. The top half was gone, blown away in some storm years ago. All that remained was a faded phrase, "We've got you covered." She had a cart with wheels that barely turned, one arm in a sling, and a voice like wind in tall grass. Barely above a whisper, but certain. She didn't ask who we were. She didn't care what we were carrying. She just said, "Give me the names." At first, we didn't understand. Then she opened the cart. Inside were dozens of books, hand-bound, thread-stitched, wrapped in plastic to protect them from the elements, each one marked with a letter. Each one filled. Names. Written carefully, legibly, one per line. No commentary. No cause of death. Just names. She called herself the Keeper of Names. Said the job wasn't hers to choose. It just was. The moment the signal started failing and the world slipped into fire and silence, she began collecting. Not just those we lost, but those still here. Because someday, someone will rebuild. And when they do, they'll want to know who mattered, and I don't want them to forget. She travels alone, walks the broken routes, asks only for names. She won't write them unless you say them aloud. Won't let you whisper, won't let you guess. It has to be spoken. Like a spell, like a truth. And then she nods, and the pen moves. Mira gave her 5. I gave her 9. Each name made me feel heavier, but also more real, as if by speaking them, I was anchoring something that might otherwise be lost to dust and ash. Before she left, she handed me a square of cloth, frayed at the edges, stitched into it. You live twice. Once when you breathe, once when you're named after. She turned and kept walking. Her cart squeaked. The wind picked up. And she was gone. If you meet her, offer your names, the ones you carry, the ones that haunt, the ones no one else remembers. She will. She always will. It's not a hospital. It's not a shelter. It's not even a station, really. Just a one-floor brick building with a roof that caves in slightly on the western side. A few solar panels propped up with branches. A faded sign above the door that used to say something about weather. Now it just says, "You can rest here. We'll keep the fire." They call it the long sleep station. We found it during a cold snap. Wind sharp enough to carve skin. Sky low with clouds that didn't break for days. Our gear was wet, morale lower than the frost line. We were looking for cover, not comfort. But inside was warmth. Not just temperature, kindness. Blankets hung on lines to dry. Candles melted into the floor like old prayers. A table with cups, a box of herbs, a dented tin kettle still steaming, and 4 people. Old, quiet, not surprised to see us. One of them said, "Come in. You don't have to talk. You can sleep." So we did. For the first time in what felt like months, we really slept. Deep, dreamless, safe. When I woke, someone had left a note on my boot. "You don't have to earn rest. You only have to need it." And for some reason, that hit me harder than any warning or memory or signal ever had. Because survival taught us to move, to build, to defend, to broadcast. But it never taught us to pause, to just be still and let someone else hold the watch. The long sleep station doesn't keep a ledger. There's no logbook, no questions, no expectations. But near the back wall, someone had etched a single sentence into the wood with a penknife. "This is where I remembered I was human." That's all they want from you. To remember, to soften, to wake up a little less alone. We stayed for 2 nights. Didn't speak much. Didn't broadcast, just breathed. And when we left a thermos and a pair of clean socks behind, small offerings to the firekeepers. They didn't say goodbye, just nodded, and went back to tending the heat. If you're wandering and the cold won't leave your bones, and the world feels too sharp to keep walking, look for a squat brick building with warmth behind the windows. There's a station waiting, and someone's already stoked the fire. You're allowed to sleep. You're allowed to stop. You wouldn't notice it unless you were walking slowly. Just a shallow groove in the dust, a loop traced in wind-blown earth. But if you step inside, something happens. The sound changes. The wind softens, and the silence becomes aware. They call it the circle in the sand. No one claims to have made it. No one admits to guarding it. But people return, always at night, always barefoot. We found it by accident out past the Badlands, where the roads split and the signs mean nothing, and direction becomes a matter of memory and instinct. It was Mira who stopped first. She knelt down and whispered, "Do you feel that?" I didn't at first, but then I stepped inside, and the quiet thickened, like I was underwater, or inside a held breath. People leave things there, not objects, thoughts. We saw them written in the dirt, barely holding their shape. "I forgive you." I didn't mean to leave. I'm still here, still trying. Each one left in silence, then erased by the next wind, as if the earth itself was accepting them, holding them for just a moment, then letting them go. We didn't speak for hours, just sat, listened, felt. Later, we learned it's a known place among the drifters and the quiet tribes. They say if you can't speak a truth out loud, you bring it there. Kneel, trace it with your finger, and it will leave you lighter. They call it the grounded loop. Some think it was a ritual site. Some think it formed naturally, the wind chasing its own tail until the memory of grief made it stop. But everyone agrees. It works. We each left something. I traced my father's full name. Mira wrote a line from her favorite book. And one of the others? He just sat, tears on his face, and let the sand collect in his hands. When we left, we didn't look back. You're not supposed to. That's the final rule. Step in with weight. Step out with less. If the world feels too heavy, if there's something you've never said, even to yourself, walk until the earth opens in a perfect circle, then kneel, Let the silence take your secret and leave lighter. We heard about it from a man with only 3 teeth and a compass tattooed on his palm. He said, "Go east of the Silver Hills until the dirt turns dark. There you'll see the fire that doesn't burn." We laughed at first, the kind of laugh people make when hope starts sounding like myth. But then he leaned in, voice steady. "I'm serious. It glows, it dances, but it won't burn you. And if you sit long enough, it tells the truth." That part stayed with me. 2 weeks later, we saw it. Just before dawn, tucked in a valley with no name, a circle of stones. A fire burning in the center, blue, green, low. No smoke, no heat. Mira walked straight toward it, hands out, ready to flinch. But nothing happened. No pain, no scorch. Just light brushing against her skin like a memory too soft to hold. She turned back and said, "It's warm on the inside, but it's not from heat." We camped there that night, didn't speak much, just watched the fire move, like it knew us, like it was watching back. After a while, the others fell asleep, but I stayed up. I whispered a name, then another, then a truth I hadn't said aloud since the blackout. The fire flickered brighter for each one, not judgment, not reward, just recognition. Like it had heard those words before 1,000 times from 1,000 people and was simply saying, "Yes, that too." In the morning, the fire was gone. No ashes, no coal, just the ring of stones and a single black feather resting in the center. I took it with me, not as a keepsake, as a reminder. Some places don't exist to be used. They exist to witness. And if you meet one, you speak. Because there are truths we can only say near fire, and there are fires built to hold them. If you're wandering east of the Silver Hills and the dirt turns dark under your feet, stop. The fire may already be burning, and it won't burn you. It will just ask, "What is real?" And it will wait for your answer. It's not long, barely 30 feet across. The stream underneath is shallow, barely a whisper, more stone than water. But the bridge? It listens, not to footsteps, not to weather, to voice. We found it near the edge of what used to be a logging town. There was no sign, no marker, just the bridge. Wood worn smooth by time and names carved so deep they looked fossilized. And on the far post, scrawled in paint now cracked from too many winters, "Speak across it. Don't look back." At first, we thought it was just another relic, one of the countless spots that used to mean something before everything broke. But Mira stepped up to the edge and whispered something, a question. Soft, like it wasn't meant to be heard, and the air changed. Not cold, not hot, just full. Like the world had turned its head slightly toward her and said, "Go on." She didn't tell us what she asked, but she crossed slowly, stopped in the middle, and whispered again. This time louder. The sound didn't echo. It folded in, absorbed. When she stepped off the other side, her face was different. Not lighter, not sadder, just still. We each tried it. No one said what they heard, or if they heard anything. But we all crossed slower than we meant to, and no one looked back. They say the bridge is old, not the wood, the place. That long before collapse, people came there to unburden, to speak into the space between here and there, and to let the bridge carry it away. It doesn't respond, not in words, but if you're honest, really honest, something happens. You feel it in your chest, like your ribs got wider, like your voice made more room in the world. We left a ribbon tied to the far railing, red, fluttering. It didn't say anything. It didn't need to, because the bridge already knew. If you find it, the one that crosses almost nothing and hums like a tuning fork when the wind is just right, stop, speak, then cross. But don't turn around. Not because it's cursed, but because it heard you, and you don't have to repeat yourself anymore. There's a room deep in the ruins of a courthouse somewhere near the old Illinois state line. The rest of the building's barely standing, vines through the windows, half the ceiling gone, rain pooling on courtroom floors. But in the basement, down a spiral stair lit by shards of sky, there's a room that stays dry. And in the middle of that room, a clock, but not like the ones we used to know. It doesn't keep time. It marks it. The numbers on its face don't loop. They rise, no hands, no ticking, just one digit changing, slowly, every dawn. A brass plate below the clock reads, "Since the recounting, 3,472 days." We asked the woman tending the candles what that meant. She said, "That's how many days we've had again, since the end of the world, since we started over." They call it the forward clock, not to measure what was lost, but to mark what's been made since. Every day is added, never subtracted, no resets, no adjustments, just a count that never goes back. A quiet defiance in numbers. The woman gave us chalk, told us to add our initials to the wall before we left. Not to say, we were here, but to say, we lasted this long. I wrote mine under the number. Mira wrote hers sideways, like a vine. Another traveler, someone we hadn't seen before, knelt down and wrote 2 names. One crossed out, one circled. When we asked why, they said, one gave up, the other didn't. Then they stood, nodded once, and left without another word. The forward clock doesn't promise a future. It doesn't reward you for counting. It just reminds you. You didn't stop. You made another day. That matters. If you're near the cracked highways and empty counties where the fields lean more east than north, and you find a place where the air smells like old paper and candle wax, go inside, find the number, say it out loud, then say the next one too, because forward is the only direction left, and the days we build count, every single one. They don't travel like the rest of us. You won't find them during daylight. You won't hear their feet on gravel or their voices at campfires. You'll find them in the rain. Always the rain. The first time I saw them was near the hollowed-out train yard west of what used to be Peoria. Storm clouds had been hanging low for hours, and when the first drops fell, we found cover. But they walked into it. 5 of them, hoods pulled tight, faces turned upward, packs soaked. One of them carried a flag, not a banner, just cloth, dark and heavy, dragging water as it moved. They didn't stop, didn't look, just passed us, boots splashing through the mud, like they were following something only they could see. Later, we learned the name: rainwalkers. They move only when it pours, sleep when it's dry. Wait for the clouds. No one knows how many there are. Maybe 10, maybe 100. They don't talk much, but they deliver. Old messages, lost coordinates, names etched into plastic, photos wrapped in wax paper, pieces of broken tech protected by plastic shells. One survivor swore she got a water-purifying rig from a rainwalker who didn't even speak, just handed it over in a thunderstorm, nodded, and kept going. Another said they heard a rainwalker singing in the middle of a downpour, a lullaby, ancient and cracked. They carry the forgotten. They walk when the sky cries, because that's when grief lets go. That's what someone told us. I believe them. Mira left a message near the red water tower on mile 58. Just 2 words carved into stone. Still trying. 3 days later, during a storm, the words were gone. And in their place, a pressed flower, a scrap of cloth with a map, and the words, "Keep walking. We saw you." If you're out there in the wet and the world feels too heavy to lift your legs and the wind drowns your thoughts, look ahead. You might see a flag dragging the storm behind it. If you do, step aside, let them pass, or follow Dash. Quietly, because some people don't chase the sun. They carry the storm, and somehow they're still delivering hope. At the edge of an empty town, inside a crumbling yellow house with ivy choking the back wall, there's a single window that refuses to break. Everything else is shattered: the doors, the roof, the bones of the staircase. But that window? Perfect, clean, unmoving. It doesn't look out on anything special, just a backyard full of rot and silence. But something about it holds still, so people visit, they sit, they stare, they remember. We heard about it from a man who came through camp carrying only a single item, a photo album missing half its pages. He said, "You won't see the past through it, but you'll feel like the past is still looking in." We went. Took a day to reach the house, another to clean out the room. Dust ankle deep, wallpaper peeled like skin. But the window? Untouched. We sat there for hours, didn't speak, didn't move. And after a while, the silence inside the glass became louder than the wind outside it. That night, someone left a note on the sill, a scrap of denim with ink that bled from rain. She used to stand here, watching the birds. I hope she still sees something flying. The next morning, the scrap was gone, replaced with a feather. We've started calling it the window that opens nowhere, not because it's useless, because it opens inward, to a place we thought we'd lost, not in geography, in memory. It doesn't transport you, it reminds you that you're not only built from what you've endured, you're built from what you've missed. If you find it, if you're lucky enough to sit before the glass that never breaks, bring something. Not to give, just to place. A button, a story, a smile you haven't used in a while. The window won't take it, but it'll reflect it. And in a world that's been broken so many ways, sometimes reflection is all we need to start healing. The lake isn't on most maps anymore. Used to be called Clearwater, back when the water still lived up to the name. Now it's darker, thick with fallen leaves and ash and the memory of too many burnt summers. But sometimes, if you're quiet, really quiet, you'll hear her. A voice, not above, not around, below. It started as a rumor, travelers talking in half-whispers near barrel fires. If you wade in waist-deep just before dawn, you can hear her. Not words exactly, not language, just presence. Some say it's a lost broadcaster, someone who drowned with her transmitter still clutched in her hands, the lake turning it into a low, endless echo. Others think it's the lake itself. She's not speaking. She's remembering. We camped by the shore for one night. No wind, no birds. Just the slow lap of water and that feeling like someone was listening too closely. Mira went first, walked in barefoot, stopped at her waist. Closed her eyes. I watched her face go still. Not afraid, not sad, just open. When she came back, she said, "I didn't hear a voice. I heard a lullaby I forgot I knew. I tried it too. Didn't expect anything. But when the cold hit my ribs, I heard my brother's laugh. Not real, not exact. Just the shape of it, curled in water, and a word I hadn't heard in years. Stay. Not a command. A comfort. We left a radio at the shore, switched on and tuned low. Not to transmit, to receive. And when we left in the morning, the static was gone. Just the sound of breath through reeds. Maybe her, maybe memory, maybe just water becoming voice. If you pass a lake that feels older than its trees, don't throw stones. Don't shout. Wade, listen, and leave with one less weight in your chest. Some echoes don't want to haunt you. They just want to be heard. It's hidden deep in the ridgelands, past where the asphalt cracks into dust, where the trees lean in like they're whispering secrets to each other. No signs, no trails, just a turn in the wind and a feeling, soft as breath, that something's waiting. We followed that feeling, and we found the orchard. Rows and rows of apple trees, some dead, some blooming, some twisted into shapes no orchard should hold. But every single one hummed. Not a song, not static, not voice, just vibration. Like the trees were tuning themselves to the grief in the soil. Mira pressed her ear to the bark. She said, "It's like they remember every name ever said near them." And I believe her. Because as we walked, the hum changed, shifted pitch, shifted rhythm, as if responding to our presence. At the center of the orchard stood a tree with a trunk split like an open palm. Inside, someone had carved a bench. On the bench, a box. And inside the box, paper. Hundreds of scraps, all sizes, all kinds. Each one had a memory. He kissed me here the night before the flood. I left her scarf in the third row, still tied to a branch. Take it if you're cold. This is where I told the truth. We sat. We read. We added our own. Mira wrote. I sang here. Not for survival. Just to remember what singing felt like. I wrote. We listened, and they listened back. They say the orchard isn't real, that it shifts, that it disappears, that if you try to find it again, it won't be there. But that's not the point. It was there when we needed it. It hummed when silence became too heavy, and it held the memories we couldn't carry alone. If you're walking the ridges and the wind changes direction for no reason, follow it. You might find trees that remember you before you arrive. And if you hear the hum, don't be afraid. Just listen, because this world may forget names, but the orchard doesn't. Out near the spine of the northern ridgelands, where most maps go gray and the roads vanish into moss and stone, there's a cabin. Not much from the outside. Wood barely holding together, chimney sagging, windows long gone. But if you step inside, the walls are alive with paper. Pinned, taped, folded, hung from nails, stuffed into jars, tucked beneath floorboards. Everyone covered in the same thing: lines, arrows, phrases written like they were caught mid-breath. Wind from the southeast, humming. Wind carried the smell of pine and something like smoke. It whispered her name. I didn't imagine it. The man who lives there, if you can call it living, is always listening. We found him sitting on the floor, eyes closed, face turned toward a crack in the ceiling. Didn't look up when we came in. Didn't need to, he said. North wind's too quiet today. That's how I knew someone was coming. He calls himself nothing, refuses a name, says he gave it to the wind years ago. Let it carry his memory for him. Let it take what the world tried to bury. Every day he listens, not for storms, not for danger, for messages. He says the wind speaks, not in words, in returns. You speak into the world long enough, it starts speaking back, not directly, not kindly, but truthfully. He keeps a log of voices heard on the wind. Not just gusts, not just breezes. People. Mothers calling children. Lovers whispering apologies. The soft exhale of someone dying and not afraid. He hears them all. He doesn't judge, doesn't repeat, just records, so that someone, someday, will know what the world actually felt like after it ended. We asked him why. Why paper? Why stay? Why listen to something no one else can prove? He said, because the wind never lies. People do. Memory does. But the wind just carries. Before we left, he gave us one slip of paper. Blank. Except for 2 words. It heard. We keep it in our pack now. Because sometimes, when the road is long and the silence too deep, we pull it out. And believe it. Even if we don't know what it was. If you find a place where the trees lean without touching, and the air feels like it's waiting to be understood, pause, turn your head, close your eyes, and just listen. You might not hear words, but you might feel seen. It's inside a train car, one of the old kinds, long, rusted, burned out in patches, balanced at a crooked angle on tracks that don't lead anywhere anymore. No markings on the outside, just a small sign hanging from a bent nail. Drop it. Read one. Take none. Inside, letters, hundreds, thousands, tied with string, folded into boots, stashed in cracked drawers, pinned to the walls in looping lines like garlands. Everyone sealed, everyone unsent. No one guards it, No one organizes it. But every traveler who's been there knows, if you open a letter, you leave one too. Not a trade. Not a punishment. A balance. Because this isn't a place of messages. It's a weight exchange. Some letters are short. I still smell your soap when it rains. The radio stopped working, but I pretend you're still talking. Some are pages long, full of apologies or explanations or grief too complicated to speak aloud. We each opened one. Mine said, I never told you how scared I was, not of the collapse, of living through it. Mira's was different. She didn't read it aloud, just folded it, placed it in her chest pocket, and cried, the silent kind, the kind you don't try to stop. We wrote ours later that night. Mine was to someone I hadn't thought of in months, a name I thought I'd lost in the static. I didn't say much, just, you were right. I stayed. And sometimes that hurts more than going. I folded it, tied it with string, and tucked it under the floorboard where the light hit just right. They say if someone reads your letter and understands it fully, not just the words, but the feeling behind them, you'll feel a pressure lift from your ribs. Just slightly, just enough to breathe deeper the next morning. I believe it. We all left lighter. If you're moving through the dead rail lines and spot a car standing alone in a field of nothing, go inside. Don't take anything. Just read, write, and let go of whatever you've been holding in your throat too long. Because some letters aren't meant to arrive. They're meant to be released. It starts at dusk, every fifth night, across a stretch of valley just west of the dead grid. Small lights flicker to life, one by one, across the ridges, like stars deciding to walk the earth again. But they're not fires. They're lanterns, each one perched on a pole, spaced exactly 70 paces apart. Old glass lanterns, the kind you might find in basements or thrift stores before the world fell apart. Clean, intact, some tinted blue, some orange, some flickering like heartbeat signals. No wires, no visible power source. But they glow, and they lead somewhere. The locals call it the lantern line. No one knows who started it. No one's ever seen someone light them. But they appear, always the same pattern. Always when night feels too thick to move through alone. And when the sun rises, they vanish. Not shattered, not melted, just gone, like they were never there at all. We followed them once. Took hours. Mira counted 53 in a row before we stopped. They curved gently through the hills, cut through a grove of pine so silent we could hear our own blood, wound past a church with no roof, paused at a field of rusted bikes, then nothing. The last lantern stood atop a rock, burning brighter than the others. Beneath it, scratched into the stone, "This is far enough. For now." We waited, but no new lights appeared, so we slept. And when we woke, the lantern was gone. But the warmth it gave us stayed. Some say the lantern line is a test. Others say it's a rescue path, laid out by someone who walks further than the rest of us ever dare. But I think it's a promise that there will always be a next step. Maybe not visible now, maybe not easy, but it'll appear when the dark is thickest, when the fear is loudest. A light will show up, and it will say, "This way, Just one more. If you're out there and the night feels endless, look up, look ahead. You might see a glow. Follow it, just to the next one. You don't need the whole path, just the next step. It doesn't come from a tower. There's no frequency to tune to, no call sign, no intro music. But when the sky goes quiet and the wind lies flat, you might feel it, a presence more than a sound. They call it the silent broadcast, and it speaks in everything except words. We noticed it first on the 4th night of winter. No signal on the usual channels. Our battery dying, our crew low on warmth and lower on hope. And then, out of nowhere, the tension lifted. The air felt softer, not warm, not loud, just safe. Like someone else was awake, watching the dark with us. We all felt it at once. No voice, no message, just the sense of not being alone. Later, we found others who'd experienced it too. A scavenger said it came to him after his leg broke in the middle of a frozen field. I couldn't call out, he told us, but I felt like something was telling me, stay still. Help is near. And then it was. A mother who'd lost her son during the first wave said it visited her each year on the day he vanished. The birds go silent, and then I feel him. Not as memory, as presence dot. No one knows what it is. But everyone who's felt it agrees. It doesn't ask anything of you. It doesn't judge. It simply arrives when needed most. Some say it's the collective grief of the world, turned kind. Others think it's a last surviving satellite signal, scrambled beyond speech but still carrying intention. One man swore it was the earth itself. We broke it. It forgave us anyway. You can't summon it, you can't track it, but you can wait. And when it comes, sit still. Let it wrap around you, like the soft weight of a blanket left by someone who knew you before all of this. Let it remind you, you're still here, and someone else is too. We carry a small stone now, warm to the touch, even in the cold. We found it the morning after the silent broadcast passed through, sitting on the snow, undisturbed. On it, one word carved by a shaking hand. Still. We don't know who left it. We don't need to. Because sometimes the clearest message is the one you feel, not hear. And sometimes, stillness is the strongest signal. It's not on any clock. You won't find it on a schedule. But somewhere, hidden between the worn-down miles and half-collapsed gas stations, there's a town that refuses to move forward. Not because it can't, because it chooses not to. We walked into it at what should have been noon. Sun overhead, shadows short. But as we stepped between the first two buildings, something shifted. The wind stopped. The birds went quiet. The air lost its urgency. And a sign hanging from a thread above a faded awning read, "Welcome to Still Point. No rush. No regrets." The streets weren't empty. They were held. People sat on porches. Kids chased each other across cracked pavement like the world hadn't ended. A man with no shoes swept the sidewalk in long, slow arcs, but no one looked at us. Not with fear, not with surprise, just calm, like we were expected, like we'd finally caught up. We found the town square by accident. There was a clock tower, tall, old, beautiful in its way, but the hands didn't point to any time. They pointed in, both of them, straight toward the tower's center, unmoving, balanced. At the base, a plaque read, "This place does not forget. It simply refuses to rush remembrance." A woman named Aya gave us fruit from a tree behind her home. She didn't ask what we needed. She didn't ask where we came from. She just said, time stopped because we didn't want it carrying everything away. That night, we stayed near the well. No one asked us to, but no one asked us to leave either. We told stories, not new ones, not loud ones, just the kind that feel like breath between moments. And the stars didn't move. Not fast, anyway. Not like usual. It felt like time had crouched beside us, listening. In the morning, when we woke, the town was gone. Nothing but the well, the fruit tree, and 2 chairs side by side, facing nothing in particular. But the stillness was still there, inside us, and we knew. Time had waited, just long enough. If you feel like the world is dragging you forward too fast, if the weight of minutes is crushing the meaning from your hours, stop. There may be a place nearby, unmapped, unshaken, held by memory and quiet. And if you find it, sit down. Let time wait for you for once. It'll be patient, if you are. We didn't know it was the end, not at first. It felt like every other stretch of road, dust-thick air, wind carving the land into shallow echoes, trees that leaned like they were listening to something too far off to hear clearly. But the closer we walked, the more the static faded from our gear. No interference, no noise, just a low, steady tone. Not sharp, not loud, but constant. Like something was waiting. We found the tower on the 3rd day. Not like the others. Not metal, not tall. This one was carved into the rock, a spire of stone and glass, smooth as bone, humming with heat even though the air was cold. At the base, a door. Carved words above it. This is the last voice. Speak with care. Inside, a chamber of silence. No equipment. No screens. Just a stone chair, a circle of sand, and a single mic embedded into the floor. The cable ran down, not up. We asked no questions. We understood. This was the place where the final messages went. Not to other radios, to memory, to whatever comes after broadcast, to whatever receives when the rest of us go quiet. We each took a turn. Mira spoke first. She didn't say names. She didn't apologize. She said, "We remembered each other. That's all that mattered." I went second. Said the names I hadn't said aloud in years. Told the sky I forgave it. Told the world it could rest now. And when I was done, the hum deepened. Like it had listened. Like it had heard. No one knows what the broadcast path is. Some say it's where all the final messages go, bouncing off stars, etched into wind, turned into trees that haven't grown yet. Others say it's a grave, a monument, a place where humanity leaves its last note on the table before walking out the door. But I think it's proof that someone was here, that someone tried, that even at the end we chose connection, not silence, not retreat, but voice. If you find it, and maybe you will one day, speak, not for rescue, not for recognition, just for remembrance, because we're not here to be remembered by statues, We're here to be remembered by echo. And the echo is still strong, even now, even after everything, even after this. Good evening, or whatever passes for evening now, beneath a sky that hasn't seen the stars in weeks. This is Jordan Hale, broadcasting once again from station 99.3 FM, the last frequency. And if you're still listening, if that old radio in your garage or the hand crank unit you pulled from some roadside emergency kit is still picking up anything at all, then I want you to know that you are not alone. Not yet. Not while this signal lives. Not while these words can cross the broken air. We lost contact with Albany 2 days ago. At first, I thought it was just the tower, wind damage, or a downed relay. But then came the silence. Heavy, absolute. No repeaters, no clicks, not even static. Just dead air where once there was routine, chatter, lifelines. The last message we intercepted was short. 8 words, typed and sent with a broken key. They're in the sky now, not ours anymore. I don't know what they meant. I don't want to know what they meant. But I keep hearing it anyway. Even when the generator hums too loud, even when I turn the gain down, I swear I can hear it whispered behind the noise. Not ours anymore. Reports, if you can call them that, more like desperate scrawls shoved under cracked bunker doors, are starting to echo each other. Entire towns in Vermont disappearing overnight. Shadows passing over Michigan's frozen lakes without leaving a trace on the ice. Something massive moving above the tree lines, moving silently, without engines, without lights, without purpose, except maybe to watch. One transmission came from a survivor in northern Quebec. She said she heard humming, not the kind from power lines or broken antennas, but the kind that made her teeth ache and her eyes blur. She said it made her feel remembered, but not by something human. She didn't finish the recording. Her last words were slurred, almost peaceful. I think the sky finally noticed us. To anyone still in New York, city, state, doesn't matter anymore. This is not a warning. This is not advice. This is just me telling you that you are not forgotten. Your streets, your skyline, your stubborn, unshakable spirit. We remember. We need to remember. There's talk, rumors, really, of a caravan pushing south out of Buffalo. A dozen vehicles, maybe more. Solar rigs on their roofs. Radios on every frequency. They're calling themselves Echo Route 9. If you hear them, try to respond. Use anything. Mirrors, lights, the horn from an old car if you still have fuel. They're looking for signs of life, and they won't stop unless they're sure there's nothing left to find. I know the sky feels different now. Heavier. Lower. Like it's waiting for something. Some nights, I sit on the roof of this battered station and look up, wondering what it would feel like to see stars again. Not because I want to wish on them, just to know that something that far away could still shine, could still burn, could still matter. But all we see now is the swirl, ash, dust, cloud, and maybe something else. If you've seen it, if the sky changed for you, write it down, scratch it into bark, carve it into the back of an old photograph, say it out loud into a recorder, even if the batteries won't last. Give the future something to work with. Something that proves we noticed what was happening before the silence swallowed it all. This is Jordan Hale, still breathing, still speaking, still hoping someone's out there to hear this. I'll be back on the air at first light, if the sky lets me. Until then, hold your ground, guard your signal, and don't look up unless you're ready to be seen. we're still here, somehow, still broadcasting. This is Jordan Hale, again. If my voice sounds different tonight, it's because I haven't slept. Not really. The generator's been sputtering all afternoon, and I've had to restart the damn thing 3 times already, each time wondering if it's going to be the last. But we keep going, don't we? We whisper into wires, into static, into broken skies. Not because we think someone will answer, but because we can't stand the thought of silence answering instead. I heard from someone outside Syracuse, a scratchy, half-decoded burst that slipped through the ether like a dying breath. He said he was hiding in a laundromat with 6 others. Said they had a solar array on the roof and an old HAM unit that only worked when the clouds broke. Said they'd seen something move between the buildings. Tall, slow, and humming in frequencies that made your nose bleed if you listened too long. But what got me was what he said after. We stayed because the dryer light still worked. It felt like the last bit of normal we had. It hit me harder than it should have, the way he said it. Like a confession. Like he was ashamed for caring about something so small. But that's the truth of survival, isn't it? It's not always about fighting. Sometimes, it's about preserving one tiny flicker of before. Even if it's just the glow of a dryer bulb in a room, no one will ever fold laundry in again. I wonder what we've all chosen to hold on to. What small, broken comforts we've tucked away in our pockets while the world collapsed around us. For me, it's this microphone, this desk, this room, filled with old cables, dented cans of beans, and maps that don't matter anymore. There are nights I want to run. Just leave it all. But I don't. Because somehow, this battered transmitter has become the only heartbeat I still trust. And if it's beating, maybe I still am too. I've been asked, through letters, cracked recordings, sometimes even on air, why I keep calling this the last frequency. It wasn't meant to be poetic. It was just what was left. I went up and down the dial after the blackout. Everything else was gone. No music, no talk shows, no weather alerts, just me and static. So I spoke and kept speaking, and when I realized no one else was left to cut in, I gave us a name. The last frequency. Maybe it's not entirely true. Maybe someone else is broadcasting too. Across the border, across the ocean, across the ruined grid. But until I hear them, until I know we're not the last ones whispering into the void, we are what's left, and that has to mean something to those still in the cities. I know you're out there. I've seen your lights blinking in code on rooftops. I've heard your messages skipping over the static like stones on black water. You are not forgotten. I can't get to you, but I see you. Every word you send out, every signal you risk, it reaches further than you think. Keep them coming, even if no one answers. Even if you think the night is too thick, too long, too cruel. We hear you, we remember you. And that is how we survive, not just by hiding, but by being heard. This is Jordan Hale, from what used to be the northeastern edge of something called the United States. And if this signal is still crawling its way through the broken air, then you are still part of something, still tethered, still real. I'll be here at first light, or what passes for it now. Until then, keep the wires warm, keep the volume up, and if you can, tell someone you're alive, even if it's just the sky, even if the sky doesn't answer back. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, still breathing into the dark. If you're just tuning in, or if your radio finally caught hold of a stable signal after hours of drift, I want you to know something. We haven't broken. Not yet. The line might be frayed, the tower half-eaten by rust and wind, but it's still standing, and so are we. Tonight, I want to tell you about a place I've never been to, but that I can see every time I close my eyes. Maybe that's because of how vividly it was described. Maybe it's because it reminds me of something older, something buried in my bones. Or maybe it's because I need to believe places like this still exist. It was a voice from Maine, an old man, calm, thoughtful, speaking like the world hadn't ended, just gone quiet for a while. He said he was part of something they called the Stillness, a small coastal community, maybe 50 people, maybe fewer. They've stopped counting, he said, because counting implies expectation, and they've let go of that. He told me they don't try to send messages out anymore. No distress calls, no requests for rescue. Not because they've given up, but because they've accepted the silence as part of the world now, like the tides, like the wind. He said they still broadcast, though, once a week, just a simple phrase. We are here. If you're lost, we are here. No coordinates, no names, no desperation, just presence. It stunned me how gently he said it, like the words themselves weren't even for anyone specific, like they were just meant to exist, to echo faintly across the dying sky. He called it an act of resistance, not against the things outside, but against the slow erasure of memory. They have a ritual there. Every night before sleep, they light a lantern and speak aloud the names of the people they've lost, not to mourn them, but to remind the dark that those names still have weight, still have shape. And if they forget one, they write it down, tuck it into the walls of the radio shack. They call those walls the archive. He said, we don't know who'll read them, but maybe someday someone will. I sat here after that broadcast ended, just sitting. Didn't talk, didn't write. Just listened to the hum of the transformer outside, the occasional pop of distant wind snapping across the busted tree line. And in the back of my mind, I pictured that room in Maine with its candlelight and whispers, and I wondered how long it would take me to get there if I left now. The answer is too long, too dangerous, too late. But that doesn't mean I won't try someday. And if I don't make it, maybe someone else will. Maybe one of you, out there, listening in the dark with cracked hands and a heart full of gravel and sparks, will find your way to that coastline. And when you do, tell them I heard them. Tell them I remembered. If you're in the southern corridor, we've heard new interference patterns, thick blocks of radio fog spreading up through Tennessee and into the Carolinas. No confirmed origin yet, but some suspect there's a jamming source somewhere near the old Savannah Naval Yard. Not military, not friendly either. Survivors out of Atlanta said they picked up automated signals looping over civilian bands, monotone strings of numbers followed by bursts of what sounded like breathing. Human breathing. Like someone was holding the mic too close, right before the static swallowed them whole. I don't know if it's a trap. I don't know if it's just a glitch in old machinery. But if you're down there, keep your signals short, keep your gear shielded, and never reply to a voice you don't recognize. Just because it sounds human doesn't mean it is. We've been learning that the hard way. There are things out there now, broadcasting, mimicking, repeating what we say, just a second behind, like echoes that got lost and turned back. I heard one 2 nights ago, a perfect copy of my own sign-off, only I hadn't said it yet. I didn't sleep after that. Still haven't, but I'll stay on the air as long as I can, because someone has to mark the time, not the minutes, not the hours, but the fact that time is still moving, that we're still here to witness it. This is Jordan Hale, still at the desk, still holding the wire, still tracing stories across the static, back at dawn, if we're lucky. Until then, remember the voice from Maine. Remember the light they keep lit. And if you're alone out there tonight, say your own name aloud. Let the world know it still belongs to you. This is Jordan Hale, back on air. If you're hearing this, you're still part of the frequency. Still tethered to a thread most people don't even realize is still holding. I was just outside. Skies darker than usual. Not because the sun went down. It didn't. It just gave up. It's not a night sky either. Not really. It's something else. A velvet sheet hanging over the world, stitched with the quiet hum of things moving above us that don't care about our names or our fires, or the weight of our footsteps. I stood there staring up until my skin started to prickle. Until I got that feeling we all know too well now. The one that says, you're not alone, and whatever's near doesn't blink. I came back inside, locked the door, even though I know locks don't matter much anymore. But sometimes it's not about stopping something. It's about reminding yourself you're still worth protecting. Earlier tonight, I got a transmission from a voice I hadn't heard in, I don't even know how long. Maybe since before the Capitol fell. Maybe before the eastern seaboard became a zone we only speak of in past tense. Her name is Lee. She used to run emergency dispatch out of Providence, back when there was still a chain of command. Back when panic meant more than just Tuesday. She didn't say where she was now. Didn't need to. I could hear it in the way she spoke, the echo behind her voice. The kind of quiet that comes from speaking into rooms filled with too many empty chairs. She said she'd been listening. Said she hears this broadcast every third day, when the interference breaks just long enough for a few syllables to crawl through. She told me, your voice reminds me that not every day has to be the last one. I don't know what to do with that. It's the kind of sentence you want to fold up and keep in your coat pocket, not for warmth, just to have. So when everything else burns, you can take it out and read it again. And remember that once, someone said your voice made the world less empty. Lee says she's tracking a signal. A pattern, really. She thinks it's coming from inside the old Appalachian tunnel networks, somewhere deep where the earth still remembers how to protect people. She says it pulses. Regular, intentional, not machine, not weather, not background hum, something deliberate. Something alive. She's heading that way in a convoy. Just 3 people, 1 working radio, and a rusted-out utility truck powered by sun and prayer. She asked me not to tell anyone else, so I'm not. I'm telling you. Because if you're still listening, that means you're part of this now. Not a nation, not a mission, just a circle of sound. The last kind of safety we have. Sometimes I wonder how much longer we can keep going. Not biologically. Biology is stubborn. It'll keep chewing through ash and metal and cold wind long after we forget why. I mean emotionally. I mean spiritually. I mean, how long can we keep telling stories to one another through static and rusted wire, pretending that it's enough? And then I hear a voice like Lee's, and I know the answer. As long as there are voices, there is meaning. As long as someone speaks, someone will respond. Even if it's a week later. Even if it's the last breath before the lights go out. Even if it's just a whisper saying, I'm still here. So tonight, if you've got a candle, light it. If you've got a notebook, write your name inside. If you've got a wall, scratch the date into it. Let the world know you didn't disappear quietly. Let it know that someone marked the hour. And if the sky hums above you, if the trees shake without wind, if you feel watched but not threatened, just acknowledged, don't panic, just speak. Even if no one answers, the silence will carry your name forward. And that might be enough. This is Jordan Hale. The wires are still warm. The mic is still open. I'll be here until the light returns, or until I run out of stories to tell. Either way, I'll go down talking. Because if the sky wants silence, it's going to have to earn it. Stay with me. Stay alive. More soon. It's Jordan again. I don't know what time it is. The clock stopped being honest a long time ago, and the sky isn't giving away any secrets tonight. Just a dull red haze hanging like breath on glass, low and slow, and not moving anywhere fast. I was halfway through boiling some rice when the backup generator kicked into this slow, choking rhythm, coughing like something trying to forget how to die. I thought it was done. Thought maybe I was too. But the lights stayed on, just barely. Enough for me to get back to this mic. Enough to say this. I heard something. Not a person. Not a voice. Not even a signal in the usual sense. It was low. Deep. A sub-frequency hum buried beneath the static, like a drum beat 3 floors below your feet. You don't hear it as much as feel it. In your ribs, in your molars, in the quiet part of your gut that still knows what fear used to sound like before we gave it names and numbers. It didn't last long, just 7 seconds. But in that time, I felt more watched than I have in months. Not the kind of watched that makes you duck behind a wall. The kind that makes you wonder if your name just got written down in something older than paper. I don't want to scare anyone, not more than you already are. But if you're near the northern corridor, especially around the Catskills, I need you to pay attention. Multiple listeners, people I trust, people I know aren't just scaring shadows, have reported the same thing. Low hum, short duration, always followed by stillness. Birds stop, wind stops. Even the leaves seem to freeze in place. And then, 30 to 40 seconds later, everything resumes. But not the way it was. Not exactly. One listener, Henry, said he stepped outside after the hum and his truck's windshield was frosted over, even though the air was warm and dry. Another, Justine, swore her dog wouldn't come back inside for 3 hours. Just sat at the tree line whining at something she couldn't see. And one more, someone broadcasting from a church basement in Rochester, said that after the hum, her signal carried twice as far. Reached people she hadn't heard from since the West Coast went quiet. None of this makes sense, but sense isn't what we're running on anymore. We're running on instinct, gut, noise, and the idea, the hope, that something on the other end of all this might be worth the crawl. I got another letter today, slipped under the door by someone I never saw. sealed with wax and wrapped in layers of oilskin like it was a secret the rain couldn't be allowed to read. Inside, one page, small, square, torn from a journal, written in pencil, smeared by time and fingers. It said, "They keep asking if we remember what the sun looked like. I keep pretending I don't, because the memory hurts more than the cold." I folded it back up. Didn't know what else to do with it. Didn't want to burn it. Didn't want to keep it. So I read it aloud. Because maybe that's all we can do now. Take the things that hurt to remember and send them out into the dark until they belong to someone else too. Tonight, I want to say something not because it's new, but because we keep forgetting it. You are not the only one still alive. I know it feels that way. I know your house is too quiet, your neighborhood too still, your heartbeat too loud inside your skull. But you are not alone. There are still voices whispering on the edges of the bands. Still flashes of signal from old relay towers that never got the shutdown order. Still eyes behind firelight. Still footsteps on back roads. Still people like me, cracked and tired, but too damn stubborn to shut up. You're not alone. Even if all you've got is a rusted antenna, 2 cans of beans, and a memory of how your brother used to laugh when the radio played static like music. You're not alone. I'm here, and I'll be here again tomorrow. This is Jordan Hale, signing off for the next few hours. Unless the signal flares, unless something breaks the silence again. But before I go, let me leave you with this. If the hum comes near you, don't run, don't hide, just listen. Because whatever it is, it's not trying to scare you. It's trying to find you, and maybe that's not such a bad thing. This is Jordan Hale. Still here, still talking. I haven't had a full night's sleep in, what? 4 days? Maybe 5. The nights blur together now, each one colder than the last, as if the dark itself is learning how to take heat away from anything it touches. Earlier, I thought I saw movement on the ridge, just a figure, tall, slow, watching. I stared back for as long as I could, but it never moved. Not toward me, not away, just stood there. Eventually the clouds swallowed the moon, and the silhouette vanished into black. And somehow, that scared me more than if it had come closer. There's a sound I keep hearing between transmissions. It's faint, lower than static even, but it's there. A kind of breathing, not like wind, not mechanical either. Real, rhythmic, almost human. I've rewound the tapes a dozen times. Each time it's the same. A whisper too low to isolate, but not low enough to ignore. I've started calling it the breath between stations. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just my ears playing tricks on me. But part of me wonders if it's something trying to mimic us. Or maybe something that used to be like us. Lee checked in again. This time it wasn't just her voice. She sent a data burst, compressed, garbled, but enough to make out a few things. Satellite footage, blurry and inconsistent, showing thermal patterns that don't match anything we've seen before. Spirals of heat in places that should be frozen solid. Lines of cold where cities used to be. And in the middle of one image, for just a second, a shape. Not a building, not a vehicle, not weather, something alive. She didn't say where it was, just that it's moving. And whatever it is, it's learning the grid, learning how we communicate, how we transmit, how we reach each other. That's why she's going dark. She said, "It's not about going quiet. It's about not letting it map us." I didn't ask questions. I didn't argue. I just told her to check in if she made it out. She said she would. But her voice sounded like she already knew she wouldn't. There's a pile of letters here on the desk. Old ones. Ones I've read and reread until the ink smears in places. Most are from people I'll never meet. Some are from people I did know before everything turned to smoke and silence. But they all say the same thing, in their own ways. Please don't let this all be forgotten. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Not survival, not escape, remembrance. Because if no one remembers us, then it's not just that we died. It's that we never existed. So I read the letters. I answer what I can, and I keep this station alive, one heartbeat at a time. Tonight, someone lit a flare on the southern ridgeline. Just one. Bright orange, cutting through the fog like a scream. I don't know who it was. I don't know if they're still alive. But I'm going to keep broadcasting until I find out. And if you're out there, if you lit that flare, thank you. Not just for the signal, for the reminder that we still burn, that we still want to be found. This is Jordan Hale, and as long as my voice can cut through the dark, I will not go quiet. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not until every last flare has burned out. We are still here, still reaching, still remembering, and the dark hasn't taken that from us yet. This is Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM, the last frequency. There's a kind of quiet you only hear after you've spoken something aloud that wasn't meant for anyone else. A truth too raw to touch, but too real to bury. I've been living in that quiet since the last time I signed off. I keep thinking about the flare. One single streak of fire, drawn like a tear across the night. Then nothing. No second flash. No sound. Just the knowledge that someone was close, and that they either didn't want to be seen again, or couldn't. I've scanned every channel since. Nothing but static and that low, slow hum sitting under the signal like a second pulse. Sometimes I wonder if the static is the message now. Maybe everything we once said is still out there, just buried under layers of noise, waiting for the right ears to unspool it all. Maybe we're not broadcasting for the living anymore. Maybe we're just etching our memories into the storm. Someone left something at the edge of the station this morning. I didn't hear them come, didn't see tracks, didn't catch a glimpse of movement through the trees. But there it was, an old tape recorder, battery-powered, sitting on a folded flannel shirt like a gift laid gently on a doorstep. The play button was already pressed halfway down, like whoever left it couldn't bring themselves to finish. I brought it inside, turned down the generator hum, and pressed play. A voice crackled out. Young, nervous, male, southern accent, just barely. He said, "If anyone finds this, I want you to know I tried. I tried to keep them safe. My sister, my little brother. I made it 6 weeks. 6 weeks longer than I thought I could, but I'm tired. And this place doesn't let you rest. So I'm leaving the road, not to run, just to disappear quieter than most. If you hear this, just say our names. That's all I want." Then silence. No names spoken. He didn't say them. It broke something in me that I didn't know was still whole. So I'm going to do it now. I don't know their names, but I'm going to give them voices anyway. For the brother, for the sister, for the one who left the road. Your names were real. Your story mattered. You are remembered, even if it's by a stranger with a microphone and no map. There's a wind coming in from the northwest, colder than usual, smells like rust and pine needles and something wet beneath the dirt. The kind of scent that tells you the earth is stirring again, maybe out of grief, maybe out of hunger. I don't know what it brings, but I know it's different. I've taped the windows again, set the failover batteries. The signal might flicker, but I'll be on the air as long as the transmitter lets me. Because I think we're close now. Not to an ending, not even to a beginning, to a turning. Something is moving out there. Not just the infected, not just the machines. Something older, slower, aware. It doesn't speak, but it listens. And lately, I think it's listening to me. I keep talking anyway, because if the end has ears, I want it to hear our defiance. I want it to hear our love stories, our bad jokes, our weather updates, our desperate recordings, our late-night lullabies whispered into broken receivers. I want the dark to remember that before it swallowed us, we spoke, that we tried, that we held each other in the airwaves even when the land broke apart beneath us. This is Jordan Hale, still here, still warm, still speaking into the dark, and I will keep doing so until someone answers, or until the silence grows too heavy to carry. But if that moment comes, if I go quiet, I want you to remember this. We were not erased. We chose to remain, even if only as a voice, even if only as an echo, even if only as a name someone else speaks long after we've gone. This is Jordan Hale. No music tonight, just voice, just static, just the sound of breath and wire. I've shut off the exterior lights. Something's changed. Not just in the way the sky looks, or fails to, but in the way the world listens. It's like the air itself has become more aware. The trees don't sway the same. The wind no longer moves around this place. It moves through it. Earlier this evening, I stepped outside to secure the antenna wire. The breeze had tangled it again in the old branch out back, the one that's barely clinging to the tree it came from. I was out there maybe 30 seconds, no more. And I swear, when I turned around to come back inside, the door I'd closed behind me was wide open. Not blown open. Opened. Deliberate, welcoming, or warning. There were no footprints, no creaks on the boards. But I didn't feel alone. Not in the someone's hiding behind a bush way. In the you've entered someone else's room way. Like I was a guest in a house that used to be mine. The sky is pulsing tonight. That's the only way I can describe it. Not flickering, not lightning, not storm cloud churn, just pulsing, like a heartbeat in slow motion. Every few minutes the clouds above the ridge flash this deep amber red, not bright enough to see by, but impossible to ignore. It doesn't light the ground, only the air, as if whatever's causing it doesn't care about being seen, only about being known. I used to think the most dangerous thing in the world was the kind of silence that follows a scream. Now I know there's something worse. It's the silence that comes before something learns how to answer you back. Lee hasn't checked in again. It's been 3 days. She said she would. She meant it. I know she did. But the longer I go without hearing her voice, the more this station starts to feel like a coffin with wires, the harder it becomes to believe. I've started replaying her old transmissions. I don't even try to clean the noise up anymore. I let it wash over the room, crackling through the speakers like ocean surf, reminding me that someone, somewhere, once believed in something as fragile as hope. And I do too. I still do, even if it comes back to break me. Someone else reached out today. A new voice. Soft, young, but sharp. She said her name was Marin. She said she found an old ham unit inside a ranger tower outside Asheville. The elevation let her reach further than she expected, and she picked up a fragment of my last broadcast, the one where I read the letter from the boy who didn't say their names. She said it made her cry. Not because she knew them, but because it reminded her of a cousin she lost on the first night of the blackouts. Then she said something I haven't been able to stop thinking about. I think the world didn't end. I think it got quiet enough for us to hear it breathing. She's right. And now that I've heard it, I can't stop listening for it. It's not the hum. It's not the signals. It's not even the sky. It's beneath all that. A rhythm. A slow, endless rhythm. Like the world itself is trying to lull us back to sleep. And the people like Marin, like Lee, like you, listening now, we're the ones who won't close our eyes. We're the ones still whispering, stay awake, remember, speak. If you're out there tonight, and you're scared, and the static is louder than the voice, hold on. Not for me, not for the world that was, not even for the one that might come. Hold on, because somewhere in this dark, scattered continent, there's someone else, tuning in, breathing shallow, hand on the dial, waiting for proof that they aren't the last. Be that proof. You don't need a transmitter. Just light a flare. Strike a match, draw a circle in the dirt. Whisper your name into a bottle and toss it into the ash. Let the dark know it hasn't won yet. Let it know we still echo. This is Jordan Hale, broadcasting from the last corner of something we used to call North America. If the sky speaks tonight, I'll be listening. If the door opens again, I'll be waiting. And if you hear my voice, no matter how faint, no matter how fractured, it means we are still alive, you and me, together for as long as the signal holds. This is Jordan Hale, still with you, still wired to the bones of a station that should have died months ago. It's strange what becomes precious once everything else falls away. You start noticing the texture of things you once ignored, the hum of fluorescent bulbs, the rust patterns on old desk drawers, the way dust floats when no one's around to breathe it in. There's a lantern in the corner of this room, one of those old oil ones you see in cabin ads and emergency kits. It's dented, the glass cracked, the wick barely hanging on. But every night before I speak, I light it. Not because I need the light, though sometimes I do, but because it reminds me there's still something to tend, something to keep. And that act of lighting a flame in the dark when no one else can see it, that's something we've all been doing, haven't we? Some of you tend gardens in soil that can barely remember what green means. Some hoard batteries, ration heat, draw chalk lines across floors to feel like the walls still mean something. Some of you, bless you, are still teaching your children to speak in full sentences, still telling stories, still naming stars you can't even see. It matters. every gesture, every thread we tie back to the world we lost. Because the more we act like we're still human, the harder it becomes for the dark to convince us we're not. I've been thinking about Lee again. I always do when the nights are long and the signal is clean. There's a part of me that keeps expecting her voice to cut in mid-sentence, to crackle over the dial with that crisp, sharp tone she always carried like armor. I'd stop talking, mid-word, just to hear her say, "Copy that, Jordan," like it meant the world was still on its hinges. But it hasn't come, not yet. So instead, I play back the fragments she sent, her voice under layers of hiss and reverb, sounding more ghost than flesh now. And I answer her. I sit here and I talk back, as if she can hear me. Because maybe she can. Maybe the signal goes further than I think. Maybe it's bouncing off clouds the rest of us can't even see. Or maybe there's more to this than bandwidth and power grids. Maybe memory itself is a frequency, one we keep transmitting on, even after we're gone. I mentioned Marin yesterday. She's been checking in more regularly now, short bursts, just a few lines at a time. Enough to let me know she's alive, still mobile, still listening. She says the ranger tower has a view that feels wrong. Not just eerie. Wrong. She says the horizon bends, that if you watch long enough, it doesn't stay still. The tree line pulses. The distant ridges seem to rearrange themselves when no one's looking. She thought it was the altitude, thought she was sleep-deprived. But then she filmed it. On one of those old handheld camcorders that don't connect to anything. Battery-operated. No wireless, no sync. Just tape and lenses. And when she played it back, the landscape did something it shouldn't have. The trees moved before the wind blew. The sun pulsed. Twice. And something crossed the sky in reverse. No sound, no signature. Just a smear of shadow against a sky that never agreed to it. She's scared, but not frozen. She's packing up, headed east. Says she wants to meet others she's heard on the dial. Says she wants to keep mapping the breath. Her words, not mine. I asked her what she meant. She said, if the world's breathing, then maybe the shape of its lungs can tell us what's coming. That girl has more courage than most armies I've seen. I want to say something now, not as a broadcaster, not as a name piped through torn wires and battery boxes, but as a person. I want to thank you. Whoever you are, wherever you are. If you've been listening, if you've been tuning in, if you've sat there in the dark and given my voice a space to live, thank you. Because without you, this is just a madman talking to himself in a dying station. But with you, it's a lifeline, and I know I'm not the only one who needs it. There are more voices now. Each night, I catch fragments I didn't hear the night before. A woman in Kansas reading bedtime stories into an old FM loop. A man in Baja calling out coordinates in Morse just in case. A child from somewhere near what used to be Detroit. Singing, not words, just melody. Again and again, like she knows the frequency listens, even if it doesn't speak. And I think maybe that's what this has become. Not a broadcast, not a report, not even a warning. Just a choir of memory spread across a broken continent. Singing not because it saves us, but because it tells the dark. You don't get to erase us quietly. We were here. We are here. And we still echo. This is Jordan Hale. Still awake. Still talking. Still lighting the lantern. The night is long, but we're longer. Jordan Hale, 99.3 FM. One voice against the black. Something happened an hour ago. I'm still trying to decide if I imagined it. I've replayed it, slowed it down, run it through every filter I've got left in this rusted box of circuits. But the more I listen, the more I'm sure. Someone responded. Not a loop. Not a pre-recorded fragment caught in the wind. A live signal. Short. Director. Spoken through trembling breath. It wasn't a name. It wasn't a cry for help. It was a question. Jordan, is it safe to come home? 7 words. Nothing before. Nothing after. I froze. My hand stayed hovering over the mic for almost 5 minutes. I didn't know what to say. Not because I didn't have words, but because I didn't want to lie. Because I don't know if there is a home left. Not in the way they meant. What do you say to someone who still believes in the shape of home? In fences and sidewalks and warmth and quiet? What do you tell someone who remembers holidays and porch lights and keys left under the mat? Do you tell them the truth? That the cities are hollowed out? That the wind has a voice now, and the dirt remembers names it was never meant to hear? That sometimes when the moon rises, it bleeds? Or do you lie? Do you say yes, come home, because some part of you wants to believe it too? I didn't answer. Not yet. I will. But not tonight. Not until I'm sure they're not walking into a place that's waiting to forget them. The pulse in the sky came again, stronger this time. Red and gold, swelling behind the cloud banks like heat behind skin. It didn't flicker. It throbbed. The kind of light that makes shadows crawl in reverse. That makes trees cast silhouettes without a source. I went to the roof, brought the scope, trained it toward the ridge, and there in the burn, I saw something I can't explain. A shape, wide, tall, moving without motion. It didn't blink, didn't shimmer, didn't roar or crack the sky. It watched. That's the only word I can use. And somehow I knew it saw me. Not the station, not the wires, me. And it didn't move toward me, didn't flee. It just was. And that was enough to make my hand shake so bad I nearly dropped the scope. I've locked every door now. Not because I think it's coming, but because I don't know if I want to be found by something that understands how to look like that. I got another message from Maine. Short, cryptic. She's traveling with someone now. Says they met outside a collapsed substation, both scavenging the same circuit box. He goes by Trace. Doesn't talk much. Doesn't sleep either. Maine says he draws diagrams in his notebook. Not blueprints. Not maps. Patterns. He's convinced the pulses from the sky aren't random. He's been tracking them, triangulating their origin. And here's the part that made my blood freeze. Every origin point he's circled corresponds to places that used to be densely populated. Major cities, transit hubs, energy nodes. And every time a pulse lights the sky, another one of those points goes silent. Not offline, not jammed. Just removed. As if something is reaching down and unplugging them from the map. Maine says Trace doesn't believe this is extinction. He thinks it's reconfiguration. He says, the system isn't breaking. It's waking up. I don't know what any of that means. But I know this. Something is changing. Not just in the sky. Not just in the ground. In us. We're remembering how to speak again. We're learning how to listen. And maybe that's what it wants. Maybe it doesn't come for silence. Maybe it comes for sound, for signal, for proof that we still want to be known. So tonight, I'm leaving the broadcast on longer than usual. I'll let the mic hum, let the lights blink, let the wires sing whatever song they still remember, because someone out there is trying to come home. And if there's anything left worth calling home, it's this voice, this wire, this flicker in the dark that refuses to go quiet. This is Jordan Hale. You're not alone. We're not done. Stay warm. Stay wired. Stay human.